Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Beautiful morning. We're going to start our service this morning by singing Sanctuary, and the chorale is going to sing it a cappella first, one verse, and then we'll sing it through twice together.
Good morning, and happy Mother's Day. Welcome to the Westside Unitarian Universalist congregation. Can you hear me? Okay, that sounds better. My name is Carter Smith. I am the minister here, but today I am serving as worship associate. This morning we have a guest preacher who will be joining us live on our new LED screen. So you'll get to see her in a little bit. She won't get to smile and wave right at this moment, but she is watching our service and is with us here in spirit. Reverend Sarah Schurr is joining us from Portland, Oregon, where she lives. She has served as the congregational life staff of the UUA since 2016. In her work, she ministers to congregations like ours, and as such is our main point of contact with the UUA. Reverend Sarah has worked with Westside in many capacities over the years and cares very deeply about this congregation, so she wants to share how glad she is to be with us this morning. She will be sharing a sermon titled Love at the Center, where she will share about the work that our wider Unitarian Universalist faith community is doing to review and revise the part of our bylaws that tell the world who we are and what is important to us. She will discuss how these statements have changed in the past and the possible changes being suggested today. It is an important conversation that Unitarian Universalists all over are having, and we are glad that Reverend Sarah is here to share with us more about it. And in this service, we are also joined by Scott Farrell and the Westside Chorale, with Riley Anderson as our soloist today. We have Karen Kajita on piano, Jem Angel on guitar, Carrie Lucinian is lighting our chalice, and Keo Kapistani will lead our Time for All Ages. So this is a full service with many hands involved. We also have Henry and Nate on tech, bringing those of us here in the sanctuary together with those of us joining online. For the gifts of all of these folks, we are grateful. It is a blessing to be able to worship together and to be with all of you today. If you are with us for the first time or the first time in a while, welcome. We are so glad that you are here with us today. making some space in your life to attend to your heart and spirit, to come together in community despite the heat. If you would like to fill out our welcome form, you can find that by visiting our website, or there's also a QR code on the pew cards in the back of the seats. This is how you will get connected with us, learn more about what we're up to, sign up for our newsletter. We look forward to getting to know you. We gather today from many locations, and we take this moment to particularly acknowledge that our congregation resides on the traditional territory of the Duwamish people. In this acknowledgement, we recognize the Duwamish heritage imbued in the mountains, valleys, waterways, and shorelines that surround us. May we nurture our relationships with the coastal Salish neighbors, especially the Duwamish people, and acknowledge our shared responsibility to this place. Let us take a moment to offer our humble respect for this place and its peoples, and renew our commitments to the work of authentic reconciliation. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves and your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome here in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed or oath to swear. We have instead the promises we make to one another, the commitments we make to a healing world within and beyond our walls. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and welcome. And now let us extend that welcome horizontally by taking a moment to greet our neighbors. That felt really celebratory. There's some good energy here today. Good to feel it. Our opening words this morning come from Kimberly Carlson. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you began seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its open arms to possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home and welcome to worship. Now we will take a minute to light our chalice. In each week's service, we ask our chalice lighters to respond to the question, what gives you hope? And Carrie Lucinian is our chalice lighter this morning, so please, Carrie, come forward and share with us about what gives you hope.
La brise est fraîche et le ciel bleu. J'aime cette vie avec abandon et veux en parler avec liberté. Elle me donne l'orgueil de ma condition d'homme. Pourtant, on me l'a souvent dit, il n'y a pas de quoi être fier, si il y a de quoi. Ce soleil, cette mer, mon cœur bondissant de jeunesse, mon corps au goût du sel et l'immense décor où la tendresse et la gloire se rencontrent dans le jaune et le bleu. The breeze is cool and the sky blue. I love this life with abandon and wish to speak of it boldly. It makes me proud of my human condition. Yet people have often told me there's nothing to be proud of. Yes, there is. This sun, this sea, my heart leaping with youth, the salt taste of my body, and this vast landscape in which tenderness and glory merge in blue and yellow. Albert Camus. What gives me hope? It's not the most realistic response to everything that's going on in my life, our community, and in the world. But I realize I do feel hope and extreme joy every day. And there's two things that especially give me hope. For myself, simply existing in this world, experiencing it with all my senses, the way that Camus described, and knowing that despite all our mistakes, it will be here after us, long after we're gone. And for the community, the mere existence of language gives me enormous hope. Camus translates better than some, but with two different languages, mostly different words, some shared grammar, the same idea was expressed with different words. There are over 6,000 languages. And maybe not at first, not without study, improvisation, listening, understanding, but there are many ways to speak different languages, and yet we can still arrive at a shared destination, and that's what gives me hope. And if you got auction items for me, I have them up front. So see you after the service. Thank you.
And now, as Carrie lights our chalice, please join me in speaking the words of our congregational affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus we do covenant with one another.
Spirit, we will be singing hymn number 1014, Answering the Call of Love.
Thank you so much. It is now our time for all ages. Keo Kapistani will be sharing today's story. And so I would like to invite anyone of any age who wishes to see or hear our storyteller better, please come down to sit on the floor or in the front pews. While we gather, I will tell you about the religious education activities we have this morning. We continue to have a nursery staffed with caring volunteers for children up to age 4. If you are a parent with a kid under 5, we would love to hear about your needs. To talk more about this offering, you can contact Jade at dre@wsuu.org. Our multi-age RE class for 5 to 12-year-olds will be held in our social hall after this time for all ages. Today in class, Thomas Terrence will be reading Julia Butterfly Hill. Youth in 7th through 12th grade are invited to the fireside room to discuss Mother's Day and other topics with snacks, possibly some time outdoors. It will be what you make of it. And if you are or you know a youth in 8th through 12th grade, we hope you know about our upcoming youth group. It will be on Friday, May 19th, so this coming Friday. Keep your eyes on email and text threads for more information. And now, Keo, it's off to you.
Okay, good morning and happy Mother's Day to everybody. Okay, any of you have a dog named Luna? No. It's the most common name of dogs. And you guys don't have a god named Luna. My neighbor has a dog named Luna, and one of my daughters has a dog named Luna, and you don't have, and it's the most popular name for dogs. I am embarrassed. But in any case, you know what Luna means? No, not you. You. Come? The moon. Yes. Luna is the moon. And that's the real name. Luna should not be called moon. It should be called Luna. Because that's what the Romans call the moon, they call it Luma. And that's what we say in Spanish. So don't say moon anymore. Okay? Luna. Okay. And I'm going to tell you the story. All the stories you have heard about the moon are not true. This that I'm telling you today is the real truth. Okay? And nobody dares contradict me. Is that clear? Is that clear? So whatever I say is the truth. Okay. What happened is the moon was not, we didn't always have a moon. If anybody tells you that does not tell you the truth. For many years, we had no moon. But then there was a big fight in a galaxy far, far away. And the moon had to escape for dear life because there was a big war to get the heck out of there. And for a while was wondering about the universe and was very sad because the moon could not find a place. Because the moons, they like to be with a planet. You know, that might be silly of them, but that's what they like to do. And finally, the moon saw Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, that has about, I think, 50 moons. And the moon said, hey, that's the place for me. I'll go there because another moon. But she was surprised because Jupiter said, no, get the heck out of here. I have enough. And by the way, when you go, take a couple of moons with you because I have too many moons. Well, then the moon went to the first planet. You know what's the first planet? Mercury. Mercury. But it's, okay, the moon went to Mercury, and Mercury said, no. It's too hot. We're too close to the sun. No, get out of here. Get out. Go down, up, that they have some planets that, well, then the moon went to, what's the first planet after the Mercury? Venus. But Venus is a selfish planet. He didn't want to take the moon. So the moon continued wandering in the space. Nobody could find. But then finally, the moon saw the earth, our earth, that is so beautiful, green, clean, everything like that. And the moon came to the earth, and the earth says, yes, we need a moon, because at night we need somebody to give us light at night. It's pretty dark out there. So, and that's the moon came to be. That's how we adopted the moon. But the moon came to us, but the moon put a condition. He said, you have to keep the earth clean, beautiful, and fruitful. If you do not do that, if you don't keep the earth clean, beautiful, and fruitful, I will go away. Okay, so that's our duty. If we want to keep the moon, and the moon is very necessary. If we want to keep the moon, we have to keep the earth clean and beautiful. Okay? And that is your responsibility. You know? I'm talking. Okay, but that's it. Don't forget about just think of this moon. The moon that we have that is happy. So we have the obligation to keep the earth nice and beautiful, or the moon is going to go away and it's going to be your fault. Yours, yes, talking to you. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Ko. Now, as we sing our children off to their classes, let's all sing As You Go.
I invite you to rise and body your spirit, and maybe put your hands towards the center like this, and we will not join across, but just let them go through. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
All right. In a moment, we will collect our offering. This is an act of collective generosity when we take time to actively support Westside UU and its many ministries, as well as our partners in the wider community. Each month, we choose a community organization with which we share part of our undesignated offering gifts. For the month of May, our community giving recipient is Real Rent Duwamish. Did you know that as a congregation, we pay a monthly rent to the Duwamish Tribal Services? And in addition to this, we have committed to share our monthly offering with them once per year. This money is a way that we can uplift the Duwamish tribe as the first peoples of Seattle in the face of the U.S. government refusing to honor the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. As guests on this land, we can create a story of equity and action instead of being complicit in dishonoring these treaties. 100% of real rent goes to the nonprofit Duwamish Tribal Services. Their mission is to promote the social, cultural, political, and economic survival of the Duwamish tribe, to revive Duwamish culture, and to share this history with all peoples. This month and every month, Westside is committed to uplifting this important work. We encourage individuals to commit to their own regular rent payments and invite you to look out for future opportunities to support the Duwamish tribe. You can learn more. Okay, the website is up there. You can learn more by going to the website up on the screen. You can give by text by sending a message with the $sign and the amount you would like to give to 616-404-4171. If you need to update your payment information, text update to that same number. For folks here in the sanctuary who would prefer to share your gifts by cash or check, we have ushers who will be moving around us shortly. If you would like your gift to be recorded as coming from you, please use one of the envelopes in the pews. And now, please enjoy our gift of music.
It's a long road we've set our feet upon. A long road we've set our feet upon. And with loving hearts we walk on. Loving hearts walk on. We will walk on. We will walk on. Bridges are built with open hands. Bridges are built with open hands. And we begin to heal the world. We begin to heal the world. We will heal the world. We will heal the world. We will heal the world. When the sun shines through all of us, there on the road, a rainbow in front of us, wherever we go, wherever we go. Take a single flame and pass it on. Take a single flame and pass it on. And it's enough to light the way. It's enough to light the way. We will light the way. We will light the way. We will light the way. When the sun shines through all of us, there on the road will be a rainbow in front of us, wherever we go, wherever we go. All the souls who came before are standing here. All the souls who came before are standing here. You can hear them whisper low. You can hear them whisper low. We will walk with you. We will walk with you. We will light the way.
was We Will by Anne Reid with Jim Angel on guitar and Riley Anderson as our soloist. Each week, we come together as a congregation to connect and share that which matters most to us. At this time, we make space for holding our joys and sorrows. For this sorrow, and for all the joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts unspoken, let us lift up our hearts. Let us linger here a little longer in this time of prayer and meditation. Maybe you have brought sorrows through these doors this morning. Maybe you want to try to lay them down for a minute and invite a fuller presence into this space. Or maybe it feels that you cannot lay them down. At least know that you are welcome here, whatever burdens you may carry. Maybe you have brought joys into this time and space. May these joys, be they ones of anticipation, exaltation, celebration, or relief, may they lift us all up this morning, bringing lightness into this space. Whatever you brought with you this morning, may you know that you are held in love. And we can take a few more moments of quiet breath before joining in song. Our reading this morning is our current Unitarian Universalist Association Bylaws and Rules, Article 2, Principles and Purposes. Section C 2.1, Principles. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. The living tradition which we share draws from many sources. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision. As free congregations, we enter into this covenant, promising to one another our mutual trust and support. Section C 2.2, Purposes. The Unitarian Universalist Association shall devote its resources to and exercise its corporate powers for religious, educational, and humanitarian purposes. The primary purpose of the association is to serve the needs of its member congregations, to organize new congregations, and to extend and strengthen Unitarian Universalist institutions and implement its principles. Section C 2.3, Inclusion. Systems of power, privilege, and oppression have traditionally created barriers for persons and groups with particular identities, ages, abilities, and histories. We pledge to replace such barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. We strive to be an association of congregations that truly welcome all persons and commit to structuring congregational and associational life in ways that empower and enhance everyone's participation. Section C 2.4, Freedom of Belief. Nothing herein shall be deemed to infringe upon the individual freedom of belief which is inherent in the Universalist and Unitarian heritages, or to conflict with any statement of purpose, covenant, or bond of union used by any congregation, unless such is used as a creedal test.
So our anthem this morning, you can go ahead and stand. Our anthem this morning is called We Will, and it features the words of Mahatma Gandhi, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as a quote from the Bible and some other words. And then we've got this little light won't. Oh, what's it called? No, I know, but this little light of mine. This little light of mine, that's right. I don't know how many times I've sung that song. Happens. Okay, here we go. So I hope you enjoy.
Change.
I think it's my turn. Good morning, good people of Westside UU. I'm so delighted to be here with you today. And maybe you've heard, whoops, is it time? Am I doing this right? Yes. So exciting. Yes. I'm so excited to be with you here today at Westside, talking about something so important. Because maybe you've heard, there's a big thing going on in Unitarian Universalist land these days. The Article 2 of the UUA bylaws is being updated. Wow! Now you might say, who cares about a boring old bylaw update? But Article 2 is the part of the bylaws where it lists the 7 principles and 6 sources. It's where we describe who we are, and what we say we stand for. It's being edited, and that is a big deal. But you know this is not the first time we've made changes like this. Here's a story. I remember when I first started attending a Unitarian Universalist church. It was in 1978. I was a college kid at the time. I just loved it the first time I went, finding my new religious home. And at the service, we used the old dark blue hymnal. Some of you may remember this hymnal. And unlike, that's the hymnal that came out in 1964. That hymnal, unlike the great hymnal we currently use, does not anywhere list the 7 principles or the 6 sources in the front. They're not even in the back of the hymnal to use as a possible reading. They're just not there. But the UU principles were listed on the order of service at First Unitarian Church in Portland at my first visit. So I got a glimpse of them. And I remember one of them well. It was the first of the principles, and it was about the free and disciplined search for truth. I remember later when the free and responsible search for truth was how we called it, and moved it down to another position on the list. Now, I was a fairly new UU at the time, and I recall the minister preaching on this change and how we were a living tradition with living documents, and things change. In fact, the principles were edited in many ways back in the 80s. Not just that responsible to disciplined or the other way. I had no idea it was such a big deal at the time. I was kind of new. But these changes were in part to remove some sexist language, and in part to reflect how we thought things were important at that time. We took the occasion, as people of faith, to wrestle with how much of our Christian heritage to include in our principles. I asked around to some of my minister friends who are real UU history buffs, and I guess these changes were a really big deal back in the 80s. There was a UUA commission, charged with the task of looking at the statements and proposing new wording. There were feedback sessions, published papers, debates, all that. Sounds a little bit like what's going on these days. And it took a couple of years to finalize the changes back in the 80s, and eventually there was a vote at General Assembly, and a new version of our principles and purposes was adopted. And that's the one you heard from Carter earlier today. So you see, the current version of our purposes and principles was not always what we had. The sources, where we say we get our inspiration to the answers to life's big questions, they've changed too. Depending on which edition of the great hymnal you're holding, the list is different. The first edition of the hymnal lists only 5 sources. And the newer source, the one about earth-centered traditions, it was added in 1995. It was voted on by the membership at General Assembly after there was a petition process asking for its addition. And before 1995, that was not a part of the list at all. And then going back even farther in time, the statement of faith for Unitarians in the early 20th century was, I'm quoting here, the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the leadership of Jesus, salvation through character, and progress of mankind onward and upward forever. The old joke is that actually it was more accurate to say the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the leadership of Jesus in the neighborhood of Boston. And later in that century, people embraced the motto of Earl Morse Wilbur: freedom, reason, tolerance, right behavior, and salvation by character. As the humanists formed a larger and larger role in our communities, those last two statements about right behavior and salvation by character, they just sort of were dropped and seem to have been forgotten. Now, you good folks have asked me to talk here about the new Article 2 process, and I'm talking about a bunch of history. Well, I started that way for a reason. The reason is to make it clear that ours is a living faith, and the words we use to describe what's important to us have been evolving over time. They change over time as we change, as our world changes. The 7 principles and 6 sources that are currently found at the UUA bylaws, they were not handed down on stone tablets. They were written by a committee with every intention that they would be updated every once in a while. None of the versions of Article 2 are older than I am, not one of them. And the 6th source that was most recently added, it's younger than all of my children. But this is because we have a long-held belief as Unitarian Universalists that, as they say, revelation is not sealed. That means as we learn new truths about the world, our core beliefs will change. We have not only the freedom, but the challenge to stay open to new wisdom all the time. Our friends in the United Church of Christ has a fun way of putting it. They quote the actress Gracie Allen when she said, "Never place a period where God has put a comma." So what inspired today's rewrite of our purposes and principles and sources? Well, it is a UUA policy that Article 2 gets looked at every once in a while to see if it's still relevant. And there's not been a change in quite a while. And this material is past due for a good review. And there's been some notable criticism. Excuse me. One is that the principles sound lofty, but as religious documents, some people say they lack poetry. And for more and more congregations, they are passing resolutions to ask the language about our anti-racism values be included in Article 2. I believe you've done that up in West Seattle. And our previous UUA president, the Reverend Bill Sinkford, he once pointed out that nowhere in the 7 principles does it say anything about love. It's true, if you look, the word love is just not there. The idea is kind of absent. And in many studies about the values UU hold dear, love is often mentioned as a key value. And so many believe that love has a place in our statement of purposes and principles. So the UUA began a process of review and editing of Article 2. A commission was created and voted on by the membership at General Assembly in 2020. This commission is a diverse group of people of different races, different genders, different generations. And they've been holding forums and in-person and online forums. They've been meeting with people at UUA events. They've had a web page up for a long time that not only explains what they're doing, but they were using that website to solicit feedback. And there was a form that any UU could fill out who wanted to offer feedback. They published this first draft online. And like I say, there was a form. I filled out a form myself. I gave my own feedback. They got a lot of responses to this draft, and they incorporated quite a few of those responses they received, and so then published a second draft. I'm afraid the feedback form is no longer available. It went away a couple months ago when they published that second draft, incorporating the feedback. But you can read the new draft online. Congregations and other groups of UUs are encouraged to read it and talk about it like we're doing today. Though it is too late for individuals to give feedback, there is a formal process happening right now where people can offer amendments, and some last-minute changes will be brought forward, I'm sure. The Article 2 webpage describes the process of exactly how the amendment sessions are happening. So if you want to take part, I recommend you take a look at their process on the Article 2 webpage. It began with submissions in April. There are discussion workshops in May, and formal submissions, and mini assemblies in June, many of which are happening around GA. The latest new Article 2 draft will be presented to the big group at General Assembly this year. There will be discussions, possible amendments, all that stuff. Then there'll be a vote. If a simple majority of votes are in favor of this new draft, then the process continues for another year. The Article 2 draft is not a done deal, but if it's voted up, the process continues for a year. If the vote does not pass by a simple majority, the process stops. The Commission is given a warm thank you for their job well done. But if it passes, then there will be more polishing, and the actual final version will be voted on at the following General Assembly for final approval. And if it passes at that meeting by a supermajority, not a simple majority, but a supermajority, then it becomes our new statement of what we stand for as a faith. As you can see, this kind of thing really highlights our democratic process as you use. No one can just go around changing the bylaws because they want to. As with our congregations, things like this get voted on by the membership. And each congregation is allowed a specific number of delegates who can vote. This is a reminder that your congregation will want to make sure you have delegates to vote this year at General Assembly, in person or remotely, and that your delegates are up to date on the issues. Your votes, they are important. Your delegates can attend in person or online, and people who are business-only delegates who attend no workshops or presentations, they get to go for free. So at long last, after all of that, here is the new draft of Article 2. In fact, there's a slide that I've prepared. If you could put up the slide. There you go. And I'll read you the whole text. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritage of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together, and it is the center of our shared values. We're accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. We covenant to cherish the earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life. We work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture and experience and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Justice. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support and use inclusive democratic processes to make decisions. Transformation. We adapt to a changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith and presence and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Equity. We declare that every person has a right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Section C23, Inspirations. As Unitarian Universalists, we use and are inspired by sacred and secular understandings of what helped us live our values. We respect the histories, contexts, and cultures in which they are created and currently practiced. These sources ground us and sustain us in ordinary, difficult, and joyous times. Grateful for the religious ancestries we inherit and the diversity which enriches our lives, we're called to ever deepen and expand our wisdom. C24, Inclusion. Systems of oppression Systems of power, privilege, and oppression have traditionally created barriers for persons and groups with particular identities, ages, abilities, and histories. We pledge to replace such barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. We strive to be an association of congregations that truly welcomes all persons who share our values. We commit to being an association of congregations that empowers and enhances everyone's participation, especially those from historically marginalized identities. So, yes, this version of Article 2 is a little different from the 7 principles and 6 sources that we use now, that Carter read. It has words like love and generosity. It talks about us being a faith that is transforming, open to new truths, new ideas in a changing world. It mentions the word humility. The first draft that came to us from the Article 2 committee didn't have the word democracy in it, but the second one did, because they listened to feedback from those asking that it get there. This Article 2 is longer. You might have noticed that. This Article 2 version actually says we will care for the sacred earth, something that did not make the cut when they updated the Article 2 in the 1980s. They talked about it, but they didn't include it. Gone is a list of sources, you might have noticed. So rather than the menu of possible sources ranging from direct human experience to Christianity to humanism, there's a shorter, more generalized statement about our pluralism of beliefs. When asked, the Commission said that they felt if we continue to have a list of possible sources, it might perpetually leave people out. And yes, the Article 2 does explicitly talk about commitment to fighting all forms of oppression. That topic is difficult for some people. One of the things you might have heard from people is that the new Article 2 is taking away the principles. What I can say is nobody's taking away the old principles. They will not fall into some kind of list of banned books. You can continue to love them, draw strength and inspiration from them. I have this refrigerator magnet on my file cabinet. It has the 7 principles on it, the current 7 principles. I can plan to continue to use this refrigerator magnet. But just like the phrase, free and disciplined search for truth, I expect that someday our current principles will fade into history over time. That's just kind of the way of things. But if the new wording of Article 2 passes and they go into our bylaws, the old words can still be used with love and respect. Another thing, in all versions of the UUA bylaws, our current ones and any possible updates, the end of Article 2 states that there is a freedom of faith, that no one can make you believe anything in order to be a member. The new freedom of faith, freedom of belief clause reads this way: congregations may establish statements of purpose, covenants, and bonds of union, so long as they do not require that members adhere to a particular creed. That's the proposed new freedom of belief statement. So, I've told you a lot of things, but here are the important things I want you to come away with today. 1, the Article 2 Commission was voted into existence by members at GA and is made of good and dedicated UUs. I encourage you to honor their hard work and the work they have done, even if you do not agree with them. 2, our purposes and principles are now and always have been a living document. After all, we're a living faith. It will be voted on by the GA delegates this year to see if that change, that evolution will happen now or will wait for another time. 3, the Article 2 Commission did ask for and respond to feedback from people like you. The first and second drafts are slightly different. Actually, they're significantly different, as they took recommendations from members and took them seriously. And there are still likely to be proposed amendments. I have absolute confidence that it will still be tinkered with. 4, Your congregation's delegates will have a chance to vote on this draft to General Assembly. This is also the year we vote for a new president as well, not a year to ignore your chance to vote. Your board should choose and endorse delegates who can well represent your congregation and are up to date on the issues. And 5, my final takeaway. As UUA staff, I can't tell you whether you should or should not vote for this change. It is not my place. This is for you to decide. I can tell you that it's been a good process, but it's up to you whether this is a good change. I thank you all for listening today and for asking to hear about this important aspect of our faith. How we articulate our values and beliefs, it matters a lot. And I'm really glad that you can be a part of the process. May it be so, my friends.
Thank you. So, thanks for being patient with the new experience of broadcasting here. It's still a work in progress, and we appreciate you being able to experience it this way. So, we invite you to rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, which is "Break Not the Circle," hymn number 323 in the gray hymnals, if those of you who choose to use those.
Many thanks to Scott and the Westside Chorale and Karen Kajita and Jim Angel for providing our music this morning. And deep thanks to everyone who participated in this service, most especially Reverend Sarah Schurr, who is watching our service online right now, and Nate and Henry, who helped bring her in here through our audio-visual system. Each time we gather in worship, we take this moment to share a gratitude practice, to acknowledge all the hard work that goes into supporting this congregation. I also thank Carrie Lucinian, Keo Capistani, and many people who have greeted and helped set up our candles. There's so much work. On this Sunday, as we have experienced our first guest speaker live on the LED screen, I want to take a moment to especially thank the people who made this possible. A tireless team of people have been working hard this spring to research, plan, and install the LED screen you see behind me. And on that screen, you will see photos of the immense and complex process of this installation. Thank you to Shannon Day, Jim Schlaw, Charlie Wilson, Lane Holcroft, Steve Burrows, and Marco Deppa. We are so grateful. their dedication to this community and the new technological capabilities that we now have. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Now you can see what goes into it. Thank you all for joining us this morning, those of you here in the sanctuary and those of you online. Our next Sunday service will be held in 2 weeks on Sunday, May 28th. Worship team member Lisa Reitzes will be hosting the return of our much beloved poetry service. She will be joined by several Westside members who will share poetry, song, and reflections on the theme of remembrance. And now for our closing words, adapted from Michael Schurr. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you are concerned for its future, join in the project of renewing it. If its values resonate deep within you, give it a measure of your devotion. This church is not the same without your faith, your confidence, your presence. Its destiny, the larger hope, rests in your hands. And now I'll invite Carrie Lucinian to release our flame. May you go into this week, blessed and blessing the world. We hold you in our love as you go.
Now I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing our fivefold amen.